We are live on the Virtual Grip Network from Sweet Home, Alabama, where the skies are blue and 3 wide is nothing new. The Talladega Superspeedway for Week 10 of the OBRL YesterYear Racing Cup Series. YesterYear, where past meets present. I'm Zach Chapman, a.k.a. Shaggy, along with my partner in crime, J.R. Shepard. And we're lucky enough to have the heartbeat of VGN bringing us all of these sights and sounds, the one and only Ryan Seneker. Last week, the gang rolled into Bristol Motor Speedway, and it was a day of excitement to say the least. A huge pile-up with 20 laps to go allowed Courtney Nelson to cool off those tires and hold off the rest of the field and bring home his first win of the season. Courtney would love nothing more than to walk out of Talladega with another win, but at a place where drafting is everything, will he be able to find the help to go back-to-back? Find out when we take the green flag and go 110 laps for 293 miles around Talladega Superspeedway, a place that has offered some of NASCAR's most exciting finishes and arguably the most memorable. In 2000, Dale Earnhardt crossed the checkered flag first for the final time in his career after going 16th to first in 4 laps following a restart. With the help of Kenny Wallace, Dale was pushed by Mike Skinner and his son Dale Jr. to bring home his no-bull $1 million bonus. Who will play Kenny and who will get to be Dale tonight and take home the checkered flag? JR, Talladega, one of those tracks so nice that NASCAR hits it twice. What are some things we should watch out for tonight?
Yeah, Shaggy, Talladega Superspeedway, it's a track that I spent a lot of time at over the years. This place, it's a 2.66 mile tri-oval, 33 degrees of banking in the corners, over 16 degrees of banking in that front tri-oval section alone. And what does that do? That all leads to some amazing racing around this place. Tonight you'll see drivers going 3, 4, maybe even 5 wide at times, and drivers will be using the draft from the cars ahead to increase their own speed and attempt to overtake the cars in front of them. Those runs, they will come quick, and that often leads to the big one here in Dega. This place is known for those multi-car pile-ups, and the bad news for these drivers tonight, you don't even have to be involved or near the initial contact to be taken out of this race. Wrecks can occur at the front, and someone at the back can be taken out in it. So bottom line, this place provides plenty of opportunities to get runs and make passes, but there is no safe place to be while racing here at this track. Tonight, it will take more than being fast to win here. You will need to make smart moves and have a lot of luck on your side to avoid that potential big one.
Now, JR, you brought up drafting there, and I want to talk about pitting later, so we'll get to that. But drafting. How important is it that if you maybe get lucky here, you qualify on the pole, you maybe rotate the lead a little bit? Because I'm pretty sure, you're a lot better than I am, and, you've got more experience than John here, but being out front, you're going to waste a lot of fuel compared to that man running second, maybe third in the line of the draft, right?
Yeah, I've definitely got experience with that, unfortunately. But yeah, absolutely. If you're out front, you're pretty much having to run wide open. That means you're not saving fuel. The thing about these type cars, you get big runs, meaning that if you're behind somebody, you don't have to take that run. You can just lift off the throttle. You can run 50, 60% throttle and save tons of fuel. That means if you are a driver that is out front the entire run, you're going to have to pit 4, 5, maybe even 6 laps before those drivers behind you have to. So it's real important that if you're going to be leading one of these lanes, that you have people you're going to work with that are willing to pit early with you.
Yeah, and you're leading me into the pit. Perfect job, JR. One of the widest pit roads in all of NASCAR. We're going to come in here full throttle out of turn 4. We're not going to hit the brakes till under that yellow line. How important is it that you nail your pit stop? We talk about drafting. If you pull out of that thing alone, it's going to be a long night.
Absolutely is, and you talked about it. Entering pit road here, it is a lot easier because you have a huge apron. You can come all the way off the track before you have to slow down, and you will see drivers fan out all over the place just trying to get everything they can coming to pit road under braking. But you got to be sure that you do not speed coming to pit road, and you do have to make sure you don't make any major errors. If you have any issues during your pit stop, missing your box a little bit, having to back up, that's going to cause you to lose so much time, and you're going to lose the draft because you have to come back out on track together with other cars, or your night is going to be over.
Well, I think we're getting ready here to look at the starting grid. Is cars starting to line up here, JR? We've got a full field of 43 cars, and we're going to give you the rundown. Starting on the pole, Daniel Hill to the outside, the Fish, Mark Fish. And real quick, JR, before I throw it to you, Mark hasn't had the greatest season. He'd be the first to tell you that, but he won the Daytona 500, so he knows how to draft.
Absolutely. Somebody knows how to get around here. Back in row 2, we got Dwayne MacArthur in the 83 car. Alongside him in 4th place will be Bert Dotson.
Row 3 to the inside, Andrew Kotska. To the outside, Lucky Larry Court.
In row 4, inside, we have Brian Lynch. On the outside, Courtney Nelson.
Lloyd Moore to the inside of row 5. To the outside, Daryl Weininger.
Rolling off in row 6, we have Kelvin Masser in the 11th place. Outside in 12th, Robert Garisco.
Row 7 to the inside, Jerry Isaacs. To the outside, Brian Lindsay.
Rolling off in 15th place, Tommy Embassy. Alongside him in 16th place, James Hislop.
Inside of row 9, we got the hammer, Greg Hammond. To the outside, Gavin Adams.
Rolling off inside of row 10, Patrick Martindale. Outside in the 12 car, Andy Thomas.
Row 11 to the inside, Clay Walker. To the outside, Dustin Martinson.
In 23rd spot, the number 10 of Victor Lane. Outside in the number 74, Alan Wanamaker.
Chris Walsh to the inside of row 13. To the outside, Lonnie Corey.
Inside row 14, we have Eric McCluskey. Alongside him in the 28th position, Luke Lane.
Lee Wardsell to the inside of row 15. To the top shelf, Sean Foltz.
Back in row 16, inside, we have Andrew Medlin. Outside, Greg McDaniel.
Definitely a guy to keep your eye on in here. Two-time winner already this season on the inside of row 17, Tom Ogle. To the outside, Christian Lucian.
Inside of row 18, we've got Scott Negus. Outside in that 23 car, Josh Robinson, someone else that knows how to get it done on this style racing.
Chris Bates on the inside of row 19. To the outside, Bill Martin.
Rolling off in 39th place, Roger Hurley. On the outside in that 32 car, John Hastings.
Schrader on the inside there, rolling off 41st. To the outside, Michael Dow. JR, we got one more.
Rolling off in 43rd, we have Chris Sidnor in that 29 car.
Now, this is definitely going to be one. You know, JR, he's new to this one with us, obviously. It's normally been John Hine, but he is not new to racing. He knows what to expect up here from commentating, and we told him it has been nothing but impressive from these guys. It is going to be a good show, and I'm warning you, the guys, everyone, JR, these first, until we get through that first green flag pit stop, I think we're going to be pretty tame. We're going to be going on a Sunday drive here for a bit.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want to see from a league or just this type of racing in general. 110 laps, that's a long way to go around this racetrack. No need to be in a hurry to get it done or make a mess or get in a big accident. You've got to have your car in good shape there at the end if you want a shot to try to win this race. So yeah, drivers need to be smart, take care of their stuff, and get it to the end.
Gonna roll out a turn 4 here. We'll see that pace car dive off, but unlike, if you've watched Talladega, you know, and JR, you can attest, you've been to many races here. No finish line in the tri-oval. We're going to put it at the end of pit road. I love the uniqueness here at Talladega, letting the guys really get that full tri-oval in, and one last chance for a pass here.
Yeah, and it definitely changes the outcome. Think of how many different winners we would have had if that start-finish line had been in the tri-oval instead of where it's at.
See the trash man there on the inside, ready to go. Last week's winner, Clark MacArthur, Courtney Nelson to the inside. excuse me, I don't know why I said MacArthur there. He gets a good jump, and I think Mark Fish, he won the Daytona 500, but you know, that's how he won. He wants to get to the bottom, JR. Nice, cool, calm start. I love it. This is what we expect.
Yeah, absolutely. You see a lot of working together on that opening lap right there. Drivers trying to get with who they want. They're wanting to get in line, but ultimately, like you said, they want to find a good spot to ride. And that's what it's all about in these opening laps, just turning the laps, getting these guys all stacked up together so that they can have something when that pit stop time comes around.
And now, JR, you know, I wanted to ask you this, and I find myself, I guess, maybe being too aggressive sometimes. But right now, would you be comfortable even losing the draft? Like, all right, now what I mean by that is falling back in that second pack. I always want to be at the back of the front pack. I get nervous when I start to get in that second pack.
Yeah, I'm along with you with that one, because here's the thing. So this new Cup style car, if you are the last driver in line, there is a very good chance that you're going to lose the draft. And a lot of times that happens with stack-ups that happen early or further up in the field. So little bitty stack-ups, you talk about drivers lifting, drivers having to touch that brake just for a second because something's going on. It accordions all the way back to the end of the field, and that last driver in line is going to have to lift more than anybody to avoid contact. And when they do it, you can lose the draft, and it's really, really difficult. If you get further back than like a half second from the car ahead of you, you're going to lose that draft. So I do not like being at the very back of the pack, and if I'm going to be, I want to be at the back of that first pack like you're talking about.
Yeah, because another thing, JR, you know, we didn't really see it come into play too much at Daytona, and I don't think we will tonight. These guys are pretty smart, but, you know, if you're, say, let's run it in an 8-car pack, you're back there 7th and 8th. If that guy in the back pulls out, maybe tries to side draft off you a little bit, that's another thing I've kind of found can get this car into trouble. You start side drafting each other there in the back, and you can kind of slow each other down. So that's another thing I think these guys gotta watch out for.
Yeah, the side draft is huge in this type of car, and you will see drivers be super aggressive as we get later in this race with that. And just like you talked about, if you're one of those drivers that doesn't have a whole lot of drafting partner, and then somebody comes along and side drafts you, you lose so much speed, and you just can't get that momentum picked back up in time before you lose that draft.
Now, we got to have things to talk about here, JR, but when we get to this green flag pit stop that I highly anticipate, long, long ways away, are we even thinking about 4 tires? I wouldn't think so at a super speedway. We're going 2 or none, right?
Yeah, I'm probably going to be taking 2 tires most of the pit stops, and the tires are not important. The only reason I even consider getting tires is just to have some maneuverability in the car to be able to switch lanes as I need to later in the run. The left side tires here, they're going to wear super minimally, maybe 10-15% throughout the whole race.
Yeah, and right now, you know, I don't want to really make you jump around here, Ryan, but lonely race here for the 82 of Mark Schrader. He is all by himself right now, getting ready to roll into turn 3. I mean, boy, if he had that caution button, JR, he'd be slamming it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. When you lose that draft, you're in big trouble because you're going to be running so much slower. This pack up front, I mean, the leader's running around 196, 197 on the straightaways. When you're out there by yourself, you're doing everything you can to do like 179, 180. So you're going to get lapped quickly. You need that caution. You're praying something's going to happen. You don't wish any bad luck on your competitors, but you wish that something would happen that would bring out that caution.
Yeah, and we're kind of getting into where I believe it's Luke Lane, maybe one more guy. We're kind of seeing that second pack start to develop here, JR. This is what we talked about where we wouldn't want to be. And, I mean, they're racing pretty hard.
Yeah, they are. And see, that's the thing. The front group, they've gotten fairly organized. It's primarily that inside line. We do have a about halfway decent outside line. But if you get to racing each other really hard in the middle or toward the back of that pack, that's what you start to see is big gaps open up. As we're riding on board with Alan Wanamaker looking out the front, you can see the gap that was created. Now, if they get back organized in that second group, like I'm kind of seeing them do, you're going to see Alan Wanamaker really be able to close that gap, and he'll close it quickly, but he's got to have the help from behind in order to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like he was starting to close up, but it seems like the 21 of Luke Lane, who was playing Superman behind him, maybe had to back up a little bit, maybe worried about overheating, but I think they see a little Hail Mary on the outside. They're 3 wide in front of them. And, you know, we talk about wide in the air. You got 3 wide in front of you. That's going to help do that.
Yeah, absolutely it will. And I heard you mention the overheating deal. These cars, you can overheat them very easily. If you decide that you want to be committed to that driver in front of you and you want to push them for lap after lap, after about 5, 6, 7 laps, you will start to overheat and you will have to get out of line. That's why you're not really seeing some real aggressive drafting right now to get away from the other drivers. You're so much faster when you hook up like that, but that second car in line, they will start to overheat. That's why you're not seeing a lot of it.
Obviously, JR, arguably the safest position right now out front, but we did talk about fuel. How long do you stay out front if you're Daniel Hill right now? Do we think about rotating in a couple laps? I mean, it's been 8 laps, so not a lifetime, but I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time, and it's in the back of your mind for sure. You have to be thinking about it if you're the leader, because if you're out front, you're running primarily wide open. You might be able to play some strategy and run, say, like 90% throttle, something like that, try to slow the pack down. But in a lot of cases, it doesn't play out in your favor. So that leader is using a ton of fuel. Meanwhile, the drivers behind, they're able to lift all the way around this track, and they're running primarily around 60% throttle. So they're saving a lot more fuel, meaning that at the end of this run, that leader is going to have to pit somewhere around 4 or 5 laps earlier than the rest of the field. So if you're that leader and you plan on staying out front, you have to be working with somebody behind that is willing to pit early with you. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble when you come back out on the track.
Mark Schrader doing a good job there letting the field go by, but you see they are stacking up, JR, and man, that 99 came roaring through the middle. I want to say him in the 104 gained 5 or 6 spots there. Boy, oh boy, they threw it in the wheelbarrow there. That was a big move. They're thinking about going 4 wide.
Yeah, they are, and this track has room to do it. If the drivers are aware of where everyone is, you've got plenty of room to do that. But it can definitely be sketchy when you have the difference in speed like we just saw there, and that's the thing about this car. If you get 3, 4, or 5 guys really hooked up together, they can go so much faster than the rest of this field, and the runs, they come big. And we saw there, the reason why that got a little sketchy is some of those drivers saw those runs coming. They tried to move up to get in front of those guys to be the lead in that line. And that's when it's all about risk versus reward. Are you willing to lift and not run into that guy that's potentially trying to block you, or are you going to take that run and go with it?
Now, JR, let's call a spade here. You know, not that it doesn't take talent. It does, but it is a vastly different skill set than, you know, our normal speedway tracks here that we run in throughout the NASCAR schedule. If you're one of those guys that, you know, maybe struggles on the ovals, knowing that we run the NASCAR playoff format, how aggressive do you get here when we're restrictor plate racing? Do you try to get up at the front early, make sure you're there, or do you just try to hang out? I mean, what do you do? I know you're one of those guys, we go to Richmond, you win. Any speedway, you'll take the checkered flag. I get it. But for people like me, I mean, how do we do this?
Yeah, it's all about risk versus reward. If you're a driver that doesn't generally have a shot to run up front or win races, the places like Daytona and Talladega, the draft, it's a great equalizer. This is an opportunity type race for you. So you are going to see a lot of aggressiveness from those drivers. They're going to be making a lot of big moves. The drivers that are racing for points are trying to be a little bit conservative. They're not going to be making those moves, and sometimes they get caught up in accidents by those other drivers being aggressive. But this is an opportunity type race, so you know, if you're one of those drivers, like I said, that doesn't have a shot to normally run up front, go after it. Go try to make something happen, and you may even make those other drivers uncomfortable that are racing for points, and they may not race you so hard.
We're kind of seeing that another second pack here start to develop, all behind that 83, that lap down car. Victor Lane on the high side, but man, oh man, lot of guys in that second pack, JR, that maybe, you know, you're not so familiar with, but Josh Robinson, he's won the championship 3 out of the last 4 years. He's hanging out back there. We got Jerry Isaacs, Tom Ogles, your point leader, coming into tonight. I mean, a lot of guys decide they're just going to take it easy here in this early going.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were talking about. Those drivers that normally run up front, they're high up in points, they know how to get things done. They know that right now there's no need to be aggressive or up there in that lead pack, so they're kind of being a little bit conservative. They've got this second group going. They're running the same speed as the leaders. They're just a lot further back. There is a gap between those two groups, so that way if there is something that happens up front, they've got time to slow down and avoid it.
Obviously, you know, JR, we mentioned pit road, and we talked about it being wide. You know, you can carry a lot of speed in here. But there are going to be guys, you know, maybe willing to press that envelope a little more. Is this a track where, let's say, compared to where we were last week at Bristol under a green flag pit stop, can you make up more time with more aggression compared to the smaller speedways here?
Absolutely, and you know, it's tricky, and it's all about, you know, how much did these guys practice that beforehand, because in these cup cars it comes down to the braking and how you have that brake bias, whether you've got that brake more toward the front of the car or more toward the rear. These cup cars, they like a lot of rear brake. Now you've got to be able to hang on to it, because the rear end's going to try to lock up and it's going to move around on you a little bit under braking. But they like having more rear brake, and with that you can brake later coming into the pits. So you're going to see a lot of drivers try to make that up. Having said that, if you get some drivers that haven't practiced this a whole lot, they may be in a bit of a surprise. These cars, they are very rigid, especially in the front suspension. When they go over bumps, they bounce, and the front tires like to lock up because the braking is so good on these cars. You can literally just lock the front brakes up easily. So it's going to take drivers that know what they're doing. If you do and you have your brake bias set correctly, you can pass 4, 5, 6 guys coming to pit road easily.
Yeah, I mean, obviously track configuration a little different, but it kind of reminds me on a larger scale of, you know, a Charlotte pit road too, where right when you're under braking, when you're really pushing it to the max, I mean, you got to shoot left. You got to make that left-hand turn right at the cones. It's not a straight entry to pit road. So, you know as well as I do, turning when you're under full braking, that's a no-no. That could lead to you going in the grass pretty fast.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing that helps out so much here at Talladega. You have that large apron right where you come off of turn 4 coming to pit road. Drivers can all fan out, get off the racing surface before they start braking, and then you can also, because it's so wide, brake in a straight line. You're not having to turn or upset the car, so there's a lot of reward there. You just have to be careful with it and make sure you know where those braking marks are.
You know, I love the strategy of the boss man, Victor Lane, right now. Yeah, JR, he's the boss man over here. Victor Lane, you know, we've got our boss man at BGN, but Victor Lane is the OBRL boss man, and he's using that lap car right now as a pit for the air. Hey, you know, I mean, if you're going to, he's just like, hey, I'll let you in line, but I don't want to lead the way. Go ahead, you can lead pack number 2. You waste your fuel, and we'll keep you in the lucky dog.
Yeah, that's super smart, and the 82's willing to do it, right? Because he is the first car, Mark Schrader, he's the first car that is 1 lap down. We know that the lucky dog is turned on in this. You will get the lucky dog and the wave around. So you want to be that first car 1 lap down. You're willing to pull this second group along because that puts you in the best opportunity to maintain that position if somebody else has problems in this race.
Yeah, and I mean, not that it'll truly make up the difference. I think he'll still lose out in the end, but, you know, he is a lap down, so he probably consumed a little less fuel running around there by himself, you know, so kind of equals out a little bit, fair trade. But in the front group, they are not messing around. They are lined up nose to tail, have been for 18 laps, and the trash man, Daniel Hill, has led every single one of them. I'm telling you, JR, I'm on the mic. I'm saying, go, MacArthur, go. I'm done leading.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's the thing, that we have the disadvantage up here in the broadcast booth. We don't know for sure who's working together. A lot of these guys have things planned out if the race goes green, exactly when they want to pit. So Dan may be okay leading this pack, knowing that he's got somebody back there behind that's going to pit early with him, and this will all work out. But if he does not have a plan, then absolutely, he's wanting somebody to go around him. He's wanting somebody else to be out in front leading this pack. But unfortunately, they're all single file, so it doesn't look like anybody is in the mood to get racing just yet.
Battle within the race within the race here, JR. How important. I'm watching the 17 of Larry Corey here. He just went a lap down. Can he latch onto this lead pack? Because if not, the next car a lap down is right behind him. I don't know if he's got the speed here to keep up. That's pretty far back.
Yeah, that's really far back. He's going to continue to lose. The only thing that can help him out is if that front group has some kind of issue, somebody has to check up. That's the only way he's going to make that ground up. That is too far back, so he'll continue to lose that, and it's an extremely helpless feeling when you see that pack slowly pulling away from you and you just having no help. But fortunately for him, you can see out the back window, he's got another large pack going. The best place he can stay is right around that bottom. Make that pack go around him on the outside. That'll allow him to get a sniff of draft before he becomes the last car in line.
Oh, I love doing this with you, JR. That was my question for you, because that's the racer in me. You've got to do that, right? You've got to say, hey, if you want to push any lap car, push me. Make him go around on the outside. Make him make that choice. But, man, he's going to make it easy. Going right up on the outside, going to let him roll on by. And now he's going to have to find a way to get to that 82. I know you don't want to be aggressive, but in a league that, I'm telling you, JR, they average maybe 2.5 cautions a race. You cannot expect another one. You've got to get to the lucky dog right now.
Absolutely, and I mean, he's being super respectful there, and I appreciate that, absolutely, in a league race, and making sure you're not making someone else have a worse day. But with the way the drafting is in this car at Daytona and Talladega, you have to do those type of moves. So the only way he was really going to pick up a solid draft is if he stayed in that bottom line. When you're on the top side, everybody's going to go around you on the bottom. By the time you get back down in line, you're just too far away from them to get that good draft going. You're going so much slower than they are already.
Yeah, and I've got a feeling here, that Code Red machine may be playing nice to try to let him tag on, because he's fallen off a little bit to try to let Larry grab that man, but he may lose both packs. But starting to heat up there. We got a group here in the back, starting to move to the outside. Let's see, can we get the high side rolling here for the first time, JR? I think arguably, now, I'm not one of them in this skill set, but from what I hear, you get a good group of drivers right on that outside. That may be the fastest way around.
Yeah, I like running the middle to high line around here for sure, because, when you're on the bottom, you're pretty much trapped. There's nowhere for you to go. And what we see a lot of times is when you get these big, long lines on that inside line, somebody will make a slight mistake. There will be a checkup somewhere, and they just get bottled up on that bottom line from time to time. When it's running great, it's the fastest line around, but they do have little issues down there that slow that line down. When you're on that outside line, you're not slowing down. You're constantly going, and you can make up a lot of ground doing that, but I do believe you're going to have 4 or 5 cars to help you get that pace that you need.
Now, JR, the perfect time to switch, Ryan. That third car in line, I can't see that number. It's the Mountain Dew machine. Now, we don't talk about this that often, JR, but Bill Martin right now, that third car in line, pivotal role in this drafting, and them getting close enough to just sniff but not touch, that is everything. And I think we're seeing maybe a little bit too far of a gap if they really want to close in. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the second car in line has a hard job. His job is to just push that front car as much as possible. If you can make contact, do the little bump drafts down the straightaway, do it. The third car in line, his job is to stay as close to that second place car without ever making contact. And the closer you stay, the more speed that this entire group is going to have. So it is very difficult. It is a true art form, this type of racing. And some guys are super good at it, and some guys just struggle a little bit, but it's all about staying as close as you can to the bumper in front of you without making contact if you're the third car in line.
Well, we can see there, he gets the run to drive down off the hill and pull in real close, but it's this corner entry that I've been seeing, and well, now Tom not going to do him any favors. contenders on the apron. But you see there, JR, he's just pushing up that racetrack, and he's falling a little bit too far behind. Now, I know it's early. We want to play it cautious, but, I think drivers, especially guys like Tom, you're always focused. You know what the guys are doing around you. And if you're not doing that right thing, maybe you don't get the help later on. We're always watching each other out there.
Yeah, absolutely. You're always paying attention to what's going on around you. You remember when guys help you or don't help you or put you in a bad spot, and that can come back to bite that driver later in the race if you end up being the one behind them. So absolutely, you're trying to remember all these things. At the moment, though, until we get into that last run, drivers are going to not be so selfish. They're going to kind of work with their competition to get to the end. So right now, even if you get put in a bad spot, you're going to try to help those drivers that are around you just to get to the end of this race. But when it comes into that final stint, when we can make it the rest of the way on fuel, expect the driving to change.
You're saying it's like an ex-girlfriend. You just use them every now and then when it's convenient.
It's absolutely that type of racing. It's different than everything else that we do. This is the type of track where you're going to have somebody help you. You cannot win this race on your own. You cannot just have pure speed where a single car can go out and make all the moves. If you have nobody going with you, you're not going to win it. So you've got to make friends throughout this race.
And, those front three now, they seem like they're a lot tighter. I think that Bill Martin, he got the message. They're on the roll because the front four on the bottom in the front pack, they're kind of spaced out. Kotska not really pushing the envelope here. The Fish, he won Daytona. He doesn't need this. They're playing it patient. We're seeing that outside line develop. And we may have a new leader for the first time here at the line, JR. We do. Give it to the driver of the 104, Medlin, Andrew Medlin, who I believe Ryan can tell me in my ear. He had a really good run going earlier this year, I believe at Martinsville, but maybe pointed out he was really quick. So this is a guy who has not won yet this season, but man, in the rookie contender, he's a guy you always got to keep your eye out on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to happen in leagues. You're going to see new drivers come in from time to time that just have tons of speed. Problem that the new drivers usually have is learning to race around the drivers that are in this league that have been around for a long time, and sometimes learning a different car or track even. So you'll see drivers that come in with a lot of speed kind of falter at different points in the season, but eventually they get it figured out. And right now up front, these drivers are figured out. They're trying to work a run on that outside lane, and this is all coming down closer to pit stop time. These drivers are trying to figure out where they want to be. Do they want to be out front when they make the pit stops? Do they want to be in that high side to avoid everybody that's making the pit stops on the bottom? It's all about positioning yourself.
And the second pack, with all this racing going on, they have caught them. And, there has been a lot of racing going on because the ex-girlfriend analogy worked to a T there. They pushed Medlin to the front, and as soon as Monsieur could sniff daylight, he went right to that outside, and he had help. So that was another thing I wanted to mention, JR. Not only the tracks, you got to learn those as a rookie, but sometimes, you're treated like that ugly girl at the dance. Nobody really wants you there come prime time.
Yeah, absolutely. I've experienced that several times for sure. When you're the new guy, nobody wants to work with you for the most part because they're not even sure about you. They don't know how you race. They don't know what you do. They don't know if you just happen to have speed, but you can't control it. So nobody really wants to work with you. It takes respect, and that's why racing in a league is so much fun, because once you've been around for a while, you can get that respect from others, and you'll start to see those drivers help you when you come to this style of track.
Obviously, the draft will help you here, JR. But if you're Daniel Hill, maybe MacArthur in that 83, some guys used to running up front, they probably looked at that relative. They knew they had a 2-3 second gap on those guys. And the fact that they've run it down already and now they're starting to make their move on the high side, you afraid of letting those guys get out front and set the pace?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's still early, and I think everybody's going to kind of have a different agenda when it comes to pit stop time. So that's one reason why I really think you might be seeing this outside line working, the inside line. They may be drivers that are planning to pit a lot earlier, while the drivers on the outside are planning to come right at the very end, run the tank dry. So it's just a lot of different strategy that is starting to develop, and we don't fully understand it yet up here in the booth because we're not communicating with these drivers in real time. So we don't know everything that's going on, but definitely as we're coming closer to pit stop time, these drivers are racing and they're positioning themselves for something. We just don't fully understand what.
Hold the phone. When did Lee Worsdale start running my favorite Mark Martin paint scheme ever, the black and blue Viagra? That is a new thing. I have not noticed that. I got that die cast in my room. You know, he used to run the white sometimes, but that black, man, that was a special. And now he just wants to preserve the paint, I think. He got pushed up out of line. He's going to take it easy, fall back to the back. But, man, what a ride there for Lee.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I've talked about it on other broadcasts. It's one thing that's really cool about iRacing and leagues in particular is you have a lot of talent out on the track, but you have a ton of talent in the paint booth. I mean, a lot of these drivers do their own paints. They don't have someone else do them, and you can see them on display out here. So a lot of talent in this pack. It's very cool to see those paints, and like you said, really cool to see some of those throwback style paint schemes that we grew up watching them do.
So, JR, are we thinking, 36 laps maybe to 40, somewhere in that range? That's what we can go?
Yeah, if I remember correctly with this car, it's somewhere around there. It'll be somewhere around lap 40 is where you'll start to see some drivers having to make pit stops, and a lot of that comes down to what we talked about earlier, whether you were having to use a lot of throttle during this run or you were somebody that was kind of in the middle of the pack lifting a lot. That'll dictate how far you can go, and it'll be interesting to see when these drivers decide to pit, because the one thing that I hate doing at Daytona or Talladega is pitting with a large group of cars, because it's very difficult to stay organized, both coming to pit road and then coming back off of pit road. If you can pit with a group of cars that is only like 4 or 5 cars, you guys can typically get back in line better, and it creates speed. So you're looking for that overall in lap, out lap, and the next couple of laps leading up to that, speed wise. If you can pull that off without losing speed, you're going to be the pack that's out front, and in a lot of cases you're going to be the pack that is way out front. You could be 5 or 6 seconds gained during that pit stop round.
Obviously, JR, it wouldn't be super substantial, but those guys who have hung out, middle, back of the pack, they may be able to go 4 or 5 laps longer, at least, than Daniel Hill, even now that he's dropped in line. And do we take advantage and go, until that sucker's dry and, at the end, after maybe 2 or 3 more stops, you have to take less fuel than everyone? Or is it more important, do you think, like you said, maybe now if you're together with 4 of your friends, you go shoot down pit road a little early and you don't mind giving up that extra half second for more fuel?
Yeah, it's different, for everybody. I think if this thing goes green and you continue to pit with those same 4 or 5 guys and you're only coming in with that small pack every single time, you can make up a ton of time doing that. Like I said, it could equate to 5 or 6 seconds gained on the other cars. If you do that time after time, then I don't think you have to worry so much about having that small fuel load at the end. But if you're one of these other drivers that's been saving throughout this race because you're in the middle of the pack, continue to do that, because that means at the end, we've said tires are not important. You don't have to take tires during that last stop. You're only going to worry about fuel, and the less fuel you take, the less time you're on pit road, the faster you get back out there. Now, the catch to that, or the risk to that, is you got to make sure that somebody around you is on that same strategy, because if you come back out on the track by yourself, then your race is done. You have to have somebody to draft with.
Yeah, pretty insane too. It didn't last forever, but now it's actually, I think, Ryan, you had mentioned there in the chat, I'll give you your credit when it's due. You had said the last 3 guys, or the front 3 were the guys in the back. I think it's about 6 or 7 now. Unbelievable. That second pack has just asserted their dominance and said, hey, we're ready to go. This is the way it's going to be. And, JR, this isn't a shot at any driver. We've talked about how difficult it is, especially in a large group coming down pit road. But we're at that stage, as well as I do. If we have a green flag pit stop, just one, it's looking like we might go green the rest of the way, because that will spread out the field as much as, maybe we don't want that to happen. That's just going to be a causation, they call it.
Yeah, absolutely. The more green flag stops we have, the further this pack's going to get separated and spread out, and the less likely we're going to have a caution, just because you don't have the packs, the big packs racing each other, all that movement that gets generated when you get those large packs side by side. The bad thing about green flag pit stops is that it's so easy to make a mistake. Like I talked about in this car, especially the braking. Coming to pit road, you could run into another driver unintentionally, but you could run into another driver. You could even get yourself sideways or spun out, sliding through the grass and back onto the track surface in front of other drivers. Just so easy to make a mistake. If that happens, you could end up finding yourself in a weird pit cycle position that might ultimately cost you where you want to be toward the end of this race.
Yeah, well said there, and especially here, sliding up through that grass, you carry too much speed. You're exactly right. I mean, look at it. Perfect view. You were going to go right up in that tri-oval, so you got to make sure you hit your marks. And, I mean, sometimes you don't want to be that guy, but maybe hitting that inside wall is a little better than sliding up that track if you make a mistake. But we're coming up close to them here. Lap 38, got to be thinking next 4 to 5 laps, we should see everybody come in. But, I think they got to do that. Go as long as we can here, JR. Less fuel, the better at the end.
Yeah, and, the drivers that we talked about, that second pack that's now leading this pack, they were back there riding for a while, and they had those lap cars and other people around them that were helping them save some fuel. When they decided it was time to go, they went, took control of this whole group. We're seeing cars duck down pit road right now. But that gives them options. They didn't have to pit right now. They're choosing to, but they could have stayed out because they would have had a little extra fuel.
Man, that was a lot of cars, and they did a good job, I think, getting on pit road here. Lots and lots of guys diving on. Now some guys in the back here coming in slow. That's going to be a tough one. But your leaders, Josh Robinson coming in, and now Victory Lane. No, he wasn't up front. SDK lied to me. The trash man stayed out front. He's still out there. So you're exactly right, JR. That's a good point, too. These guys coming down and pitting. There is no way that they had to do this if Daniel Hill's still out there.
No, absolutely. If anybody was using up fuel, it was the 7 car, and they stayed out. And he's been working with the 40, Andrew Koska there, and I believe Mark Fish is behind them. They're going to decide to come down pit road this time. They went one extra lap, and they may have stayed organized enough that they made up ground on this group. We'll have to see how everything phases back out after the stops here.
Yeah, interesting, too. Those 3 working together. They've all won a race this season, but we still have 2 people yet to pit, JR. Alan Wanamaker gets that bonus point for leading the lap in the 74, and he's got the 77 of Roger Hurley behind him. Now, you and I, we talked a little bit, but they don't know this. I don't think we like 2 cars as much as we like 3 or 4, do we?
I do not at all. If you're going to have 2 cars, you have to be nose to tail pushing each other. Right now, there's a gap between them out on track, and they are going a lot slower than what they want to be. So I expect them to lose a ton of time during this cycle. That second group is now coming off pit road we see on the screen here. They're starting to get back organized. The thing I like about that is the 7 and the 40 are back to where they were before they came to pit road. So they're back organized, but there is a gap behind the 40 there before we get to the next driver. So that means that this pack is going to be a little bit slower. So those first group of cars, they're going to go flying around on the outside here.
Yeah, here comes the train, JR. You're exactly right. Lotion here on the outside. Big run for Christian. And now, man, you got to hope they can latch on here. Kotska and the gang. Are they close enough? They're going to have to work together. I think Daniel, he's going to have to maybe lift out of that throttle. He does, JR. Perfect. He knew, guys, we got to go right now. We got to go.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to get connected on that opening lap coming out of the pits. And you can see now that they are connected, they're going to have a huge run on this lead group. Whether or not they take that run is yet to be decided, but definitely they're going to have the speed once they get there. So Daniel's got to make a decision. Do we go to the outside or do we sit here and ride?
Now, Ryan, zoom out a little bit because this is the front pack. Look at it right there. That's perfect. Remember how big that was when we made that green flag pit stop, JR? I mean, That is how quick they can spread out. And I think, advantage now maybe Kotska and Daniel Hill, because you didn't pit with those guys. They've got the extra lap. Now you got a smaller group of guys, and I think you're pretty much dedicated to their pit strategy from here on out. You gotta stay linked.
I think so at this point, because if you start to break up much further, you're going to lose a lot of time. So, absolutely, if that group that we're watching on screen, if they broke up into two smaller groups, maybe it works. But if you start separating further than that, then you lose the advantage that you've now gained on that second group, that second pack that's back there. So the best thing that this group can do, and they're getting a little disorganized right now, they need to stay nose to tail so that they can pull away. This 4-car group that's right behind them, they're going to close up if they don't get better organized up front.
Yeah, I kind of thought they were doomed, but now we see the lap car too trapped in the middle of those packs and kind of helping that second group suck on up. And they may have gotten the lifeline they needed, but they need to link up. There's a big gap between that 104 and Kelvin Monsieur right now, so Medlin needs to close up here, but I think they're close enough. Big run here coming. They join the lead pack, JR. They win. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see with the run that they had, they've decided not to take it. They're going to come up to the back of this group, and they're going to stay in line because they understand the importance of maintaining the overall speed of this group so that they can continue to pull away from what was the third pack that is quite a bit further behind them, a couple of seconds back at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And, we had talked about a little bit of the 77 of Hurley and Wanamaker. Well, the 2-car pack didn't really work out for Hurley. He must have had a slow pit stop. He's all by himself here. He's going to get swallowed up running around in 24th. That's a tough place to be. But look at that 24 machine. Another, man. Ryan's on the hot paint jobs here tonight. I mean, look at it.
Yeah, some really nice paint out there tonight for sure. I'm sure these drivers bring it each and every week. My first time watching, unfortunately. But what I've seen so far is extremely cool. And you talked about it. The cars that are going laps down or that have gotten in a bad spot through this pit cycle, it's your worst nightmare because this group, you've talked about it, they don't average a lot of cautions. They've had an extremely green flag looking race going so far in this one. So if you're in a bad spot, you've gone a lap down, odds are you're not going to get it back tonight. And that's very frustrating, but that's why it's so important at the beginning of the race and through the pit cycle to make sure that you have no mistakes.
It looked like that second pack, remember we had ducked away, JR, they were caught. Now they've kind of got a little bit of a gap open. Not too sure what happened here, but man, they are really flirting with it. I said Merry Christmas a couple minutes ago. I don't know if it's going to come twice. They got to stick close. I mean, you're not going to keep getting these lifelines.
No, you're not. And really surprised by some of the racing that I'm seeing up front right now because we're still early, not even halfway through this thing. And we've gotten two different lanes running here instead of the single file that we saw. So this pack is not going to be moving as fast as what that third group is. So if they continue to do this, all they're doing is pulling more cars back into competition. So that's going to be more cars that you've got to race with later through another pit cycle potentially, but especially toward the end of the race.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, this is, I love seeing it. Don't get me wrong. It makes good action for us here, but I kind of expected, windows down, Farmertown drive here until we had about 10 or 15 laps to go. Just pull away from the field. But now that gap is, it's shrinking. I think that second pack has almost caught up a quarter of a second already this lap. It's pretty unbelievable. They are far up the road, JR, but we talk about it. You want to run side by side. You're just going to widen that wake. And yeah, it may be minimal, but it's going to help that pack behind you, that little bit. And they're organized. They're doing a good job.
Yeah, it is. We're riding on board with Brian Lindsay. Behind him, he's got Clay Walker, and I've been watching those two. They've been working extremely well together, and that's what the lead car and the second car in lane need to do They have to be making contact down the straightaways. They are doing that, and that effort comes from not only the second place car, but that first place car in line. That first place car sometimes has to use the brake in order for that contact to happen, and it's happening here. So this group is very well organized. If they keep that up and that front group stays too wide, this group will catch them in a number of laps, maybe 10, 12 laps down the road. They're going to be there.
Now, I think I kind of know the answer to this, JR, but if you're Brian, you're not worried about burning fuel, right? I mean, it's like the words of Lewis Hamilton, hey, it's hammer time. You got to go, right? I mean, if you're catching them, you can't pay attention to that fuel gauge.
No, if you want to keep yourself in this race, you have got to catch that pack. So you're doing everything you can to accomplish that. And the quicker you accomplish that, the sooner you can go back to saving fuel and putting yourself in a good position. So absolutely, he's doing everything he can right now to catch that pack as quickly as possible.
I'm still so surprised. I mean, even with that lead group, they're still kind of staying up high. They want to run that line you were talking about, JR, just kind of control that center high side. But nobody else on the bottom is willing to give up either. They just want to stay side by side. And now we got a lap car here letting them by. Little 3-wide action. And I think, for him, you got to be aggressive. You got to drop down. We got the 17 behind them. They'll be racing each other. They're 2 laps down. I know it's not, the exciting battle. But, I mean, we're points racing, JR, and every single spot matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Every spot does matter, but you got to get to the end. So that's the thing that's a little bit surprising from these guys. Now, they're not being super aggressive, so when you look at that front group up there, they are leaving space in between each car. There's space between the inside lane and the outside lane. Nobody's doing anything crazy, so they are racing. They're doing it very respectfully right now. But, when I say that, now we got a big crash going into turn 3. That's going to bring out a yellow.
Oh, man, I believe that's Jerry Isaacs that we got on the camera there. He was involved. Oh, man, that is a tough break. Hey, you talk about the commentator's curse, JR.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time you open your mouth and then something happens. But, yeah, man, that one happened quick, too. But it was all when they were going into turn 3.
Yeah, I believe Medlin maybe tries to shoot the gap, and it's definitely not too early for 3 wide. You mentioned big racetrack, but man, just ran out of room real quick and closed up, and everything happened so fast you can't really get out of it.
No, and that's what I was talking about. We go back here and look. So yeah, so I see what happened this time. So we talked about everybody being super respectful, and they were, but unfortunately, when you're in that mode, you're not at the top of your game. I don't know how else to say it, but you're not always paying attention to everything that's going around you. You're kind of relaxed. And in that situation, there was a stack up. Some guys up top had to lift a little bit. One driver had to pull out to avoid it, and at the same time, the car in front of him was trying to move down a little bit, not understanding that they were now 3 wide, and that's what created that mess. So that's the potential that tracks like this can present, is that when you get in that mode to where you're just riding, trying to turn laps, a small little moment like that can create a big mess.
Well, let's see here. Is track position important? We're about to find out, JR. Maybe important to about 2 or 3 people so far, but everybody else hitting pit road.
Yeah, I think that the best thing you can do here is hit pit road. Obviously, this league, they only have 3 tire changes allowed. Not a big deal tonight. Don't even have to take tires, really. Some guys will take the right side tires just to make sure they've got some maneuverability. We see some almost contact on pit road there with the cars coming in and out, something else that you got to pay attention to. But definitely about 60 laps to go here. So you can't make it on fuel, but it definitely shortens that pit time that you may need if we get a green flag stop at the end for the fuel that you need to get there.
Shame on me, JR. I think that's the big dummy award. I think our lead lap cars did come down pit road here. But the guys who stayed out, JR, we just pit about 10 laps ago. You got to throw your shot, right? I mean, this is a way you didn't get the lucky dog. Get your wave around. You got to go get it yourself. That's what was done.
Yeah, absolutely. And those drivers that did that, extremely smart for doing it, because this race has turned into a green flag field. So you're not going to get your lap back from a lot of cautions occurring. So you've got to get it back during this cycle. You're going to be at a disadvantage on fuel, but you're going to be with this main pack. You're going to be able to save some fuel, and hopefully you can save enough that you're going to be pitting around other drivers. If nothing else, you're going to be pitting with those drivers that you just took the wave around with.
Yeah, and Bill Martin right there leading the way of the guys who stayed out. I mean, he was responsible, remember, JR, for helping push that second pack up to the front. So clearly had a pit stop issue, must have thrown him off, got him by himself, trapped the lap down, but maybe the lifeline he needed. I just think, now you're almost rooting for another caution. And when you're doing that at Talladega, oh man, what's the survival rate? So you're pretty much danged if you do, danged if you don't, right?
Yeah, it's really tough, and the strategy never seems to be the same twice when you come to these type of races. I can tell you from a driver's standpoint, it's extremely difficult. That's why in real life they have so many different team members and people back in the strategy boxes making the calls, because there's just so much happening. It's extremely difficult to decide what's right or wrong, and more times than not, you guess wrong. So it's difficult. I cannot stress to people watching at home, it looks so easy when you see things happening. You're like, why didn't that person do that, or why didn't they do this? But when it's happening in real time, those decisions are difficult to make.
No, especially, you mentioned all those positions. I mean, they're there because, well, the driver's focusing. He can't really make those decisions. And tonight, when you're driving, JR, you got to make those decisions unless you got a nice teammate sitting there spotting for you, maybe saying, hey, you need this, you need that, but all on you tonight. And I think, that's an element you kind of mentioned, but it's not really talked about a lot. You need to be able to be calm out there and make the right decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you there are some drivers that are just super good at it compared to others, and that's another thing that we don't talk about a whole lot, but Daytona, Talladega, these are mentally stressful races. So as a driver, these are the easiest tracks to drive around by yourself. No problem at all. They're not physical, but mentally, you're going to be exhausted after one of these races. If you've had to sit there and think about where you're positioning your car, everything that's going on, pit stop time, strategy, it can wear you out. And that's where a lot of times we'll see toward the end of these races, a lot of mistakes being made just because of that mental exhaustion. You start to make little mental errors.
So just out of curiosity here, JR, because I probably would have done what these guys did. It's 7th, 8th, 9th, and 11th. So we got Hill, Ogle, Robinson, and Daryl Weininger. Or no, not Daryl Weininger, excuse me, Kelvin Monsieur. They took 4 tires. Would you have taken 4 rather than 2 there under that caution? I mean, it's free. Why not?
Yeah, you're not going to lose, ground like you would under green. And odds are, they only took right sides on the last stop. Maybe with the way the setups and things are, maybe the left side tires are wearing a little bit more, or maybe they're feeling their car not drive as well as it did before. So this was the opportunity to get 4 tires and not lose a ton of track position. You may lose some positions, but as far as losing distance on the track, you're not going to lose that through the caution.
The green flag's high. It's ready to fly. Look at it wave. Wonderful camera there in the 59 of Sean Foltz. Out to a big one. And, well, JR, normally that's a good thing, but those two, they may be out a little too far here. We may see a big run coming.
Yeah, absolutely. On a plate-style track, if you get too big of a lead on the green flag there, that just allows those other drivers, as they build up momentum, to have a huge run on you going down the back straightaway. You want to make sure that you don't do that, and it's, being able to do that restart, have that experience that gets you the knowledge to be able to pull that off, because it's difficult. It's not something easy to do.
Tell you what, looking at this field, I'm nervous if I'm in the back, because we are spread out after that restart. We got the front group running side by side here, and now we got the small train coming. This is not the best restart here for those guys. They got to get on it.
Yeah, and, it wouldn't surprise me, because that's a big gap. It wouldn't surprise me if some of that was not done on purpose, because we know cautions breed cautions. A lot of times when we start having a green flag race and then we get a caution, we start to see multiple cautions. So that pack that's kind of split up back there, they may be doing that, just trying to fill it out and seeing what this lead group's going to do. right now they're too wide up there, while this second group, they're in line, so I feel like they can close up at any moment.
Okay, now JR, we saw how well that second group did, or the first group to come down pit road, those leaders like Robinson, Ogle, how well they did on pit road. I mean, that second group barely managed to catch them there after the pit stops. Do we take advantage of that talent now that I think either way, we're only stopping one more time, I think? Do we short pit? You know, maybe you need to get a little bit more fuel, but you just want to break away from these guys, do your own thing here to close out the race?
Yeah, it is definitely a strategy that you can do, because we know you got to make one more pit stop no matter what. If you feel like you can get organized better by stopping early and doing that short pit, then definitely it's a benefit. We're watching on the replay here, the 17 having a moment there in the corner, and actually stopping on the apron and pulling off. So I don't know if he had some type of issue or what exactly transpired there, but definitely issues out of the 17.
That's a cat on the steering wheel, if it was my guess. You know, it's happened to me before. That's a quick reaction. Like, what are you doing? I got to pull off on a wreck, everybody. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
It's definitely something that can happen. You know, it's not something that those watching at home think about, but there's always distractions, always something that's occurring. And then there's even, you know, software or hardware failures that you can have, screens going out. So, yeah, typically that's the type of thing that's happening when you see that.
Now, I'm wondering here, there's obviously so many games being played. We're watching the front pack. I mean, I just don't know if I'm Kotsko on the bottom, if I want to continue to lead. I know, obviously, JR, one guy can't do the difference, but I am pleading with those guys over the microphone to line up and let's break away from that second group, because they are closing in. This side-by-side is doing them no favors.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just gone halfway. I think that they're going to have to absolutely make one more pit stop somewhere around, 40, somewhere around there is where you're going to have to make that stop. So we're not quite there. We still got about 54 laps to go. So you need to be organized, because at the end of the day, that next pack back there, you're racing those guys. They're on the lead lap. If they get up there with you, that's more cars that you have to race at the end. This front group really needs to get organized and pull away, so it makes it difficult for that group back there, the second group, to even have a shot to race for the win.
I believe that was Victor Lane. Yes, it is, leading that second pack. They are closing in, but interesting enough, running 20th. So all cars inside of the top 20 are in that front group. But man, right now it just seems like kind of what you were saying, JR. I think if they wanted to organize, they could. But right now, the third and fourth cars, I think we're just being patient. Maybe we just want to keep them in our sights. But, man, that second car in line, boy, I'm not looking at it right now, but that second pack, they had a scare going down the backstretch. That 30 machine of Gavin Adams had to kind of jump out of line there, and we almost saw another accident exactly like what happened, JR. Car jumps out of line, other one not ready, and a little bit of contact. But they did a good job saving it, but they did lose some time.
Yeah, definitely going to lose time from that, but that's the little things that can create big issues. It just takes one little problem at the front of that group, and the third, fourth, fifth car in line, they're not going to be able to react to it always, and that's when you usually see the big wrecks occur. Fortunately, they kept it going. They lost a little bit of time, but they're getting back organized now.
John Foltz moving his way to the front. Shame on me if I'm wrong, Sean, when you go back and watch this, but pretty sure he had a pretty good car at Bristol, and I think he got loose coming out of turn 4, hit that inside wall. He was a quick car moving on through the field. It'd be nice to see him turn that thing around and park it up top. But JR, you mentioned we're just over halfway. As much as you want to get out front, flex those muscles, lap 60 doesn't pay the bills.
No, it doesn't. All of these drivers need to be thinking about that next pit stop, when they want to make it. just how far they want to go. Now, if you're going to be short pitting or something like that, then yeah, absolutely, you guys can go run hard. You can be out front. You don't have to worry about really saving that fuel. But if you're somebody that wants to play the long game and try to stay out just in case there is an accident. Now, we saw that first round of green flag stops. Everybody did a fantastic job, but there is a big risk every time you have green flag pit stops that somebody's going to make a mistake and a caution could be created from it. So for me, I always like trying to stay out as long as I can, but you typically do see those drivers that pit earlier that get organized faster. They're going to be the ones that come out on top if we stay green.
We're through. Oh, man, we almost went 3 wide for the lead. Oh, that was a close one. There's the checkup on the bottom. That 3 machine of lotion had to kind of go down on the apron, and he backed out of it. Luckily, the trash man let him back in line. You can see there inside line that they really lost momentum. I mean, that top 4, they could almost drop down if they wanted to shut the door. But we're coming up on a lap car here. What do you do, JR? You're a lapper. You got 2 wide behind you. Where do you go?
Yeah, I think it just depends on what your goal is. If you want to latch on and have a chance to not lose this draft and go further laps down, then you're going to have to run that inside line, make that pack go around you. That's going to be up to them. But we're seeing here a lot of the drivers being really respectful. So the lap car going up to the top side, but going to have to find a spot to get slotted back in so they do not lose the draft.
Yeah, that's last week's winner at Bristol, Dwayne MacArthur. Not too sure. Maybe, lost draft at the beginning what the deal is, but that race car looks pretty clean. Doesn't look like he's got any damage on that 83. But, man, it just shows the highs and lows of racing, JR. Top of the mountain one week, you're in the dirt the next.
Yeah, racing is super humbling. Believe me, it can give you the highest highs, and then the next week you can feel like you're worthless. So it's just that type of sport. It's always changing, and it's extremely tough to stay on top.
Yeah, very interesting to see here. I believe we got the top. Trying to find you a number. I want to say 26. Yeah, we got 26 cars in that first group. And the man running 26th right now, Chris Walsh. I think, that's where Shaggy would want to be, JR. Right there. We're a little over halfway. I can see everyone. And the front bumper's clean. I mean, I'm getting ready to cash the check here if I'm him. It's almost go time, but I'm getting excited.
Yeah, it's not a bad spot to be at all. I just really hate being that last car in line with this new Cup car. It's super easy to lose the draft, so he's got to be paying attention to that. He does not want to lose this draft, but being in the back is a great spot. If something happens up ahead, you normally have time to react. If you try to avoid that, and in return, you can gain some easy position. So it's not a bad spot to be at all.
Yeah, see, that's the problem with you guys that win all the time, JR. You're too busy being out front, and I'm busy behind working that draft. I like being that last car. I've realized, hey, I can't pass you, but I can smell what you ate for dinner, and I'm telling you, I like what that 63 is doing right now. But the big scare for me, JR, and you talked about it, I mean, it's been a while since the caution, but the aggression's going to start to go through the roof. So you don't want to be in the back of this front pack at the wrong time, because let's just be honest, whether it's a lap from now or it's when the white flag comes out, we're going to get one.
Yeah, normally you do get one in this type of racing, especially here in Talladega. So, a lot of it comes down to luck. Now, there is a skill level at this racing, because you do see drivers that can consistently finish up toward the front in this style of racing. So there is skill involved, but there is also a lot of luck in where you're positioned, and sometimes the perfect plan can go south in a hurry for you. It's just always interesting, and it never seems to work out the same way twice. So these races always play out a little bit different. These drivers are trying to contemplate that and think about where they need to place their car on the tracks right now, but definitely, you talked about the aggression level is going to start to pick up now that we're past halfway, about 10 laps past halfway. Every lap that we go, drivers are going to get a little more aggressive. They've learned a lot throughout this race. They know where to get the runs, where to make the moves, and you're going to start to see some of those.
We saw that outside line kind of separate a little, JR, and it's taken all but a lap and a half for the bottom, I think, 7, 8 cars here to step up and get in front, make that 6. I can't count, but man, oh man, you talked about it. The guys on the bottom are all good and they can line up. That is the way. And man, maybe they just showed that. I wouldn't be surprised now. That's that group that moved up to the front after regaining the pack before the caution. Wouldn't be surprised if maybe they go up and try to shut down that top line.
Yeah, absolutely. And, different strategies. Those that are on the outside line, they're trying to make up ground. Ultimately, their goal is to be the lead in this pack and get back to single file racing. So that's why they're trying to make something work up there. But at some point, it comes down to when you want to make that last pit stop. If you're a driver that wants to go long, you're ultimately going to have to get back down. So if you can't make this topside work, which we're seeing work at the moment, they're making up a lot of ground through the corner. If you can't make it work, you're eventually going to want to find a hole and get back down, even if that means going to the tail end of that inside line.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, especially if you're one of the guys who, you maybe only have 1, 2 teammates out there not around you. If you're hanging out at the back, you're not going to get caught out. I get worried about maybe, a guy like Kotska. He's got friends, but, JR, when he started this season, he was a 3-digit number guy. Ended up getting a win, getting knocked off that rookie list, gets his 2-digit number in. Yeah, he's got friends, but definitely not the relationships that a lot of these guys have. And I just worry if I'm Andrew, are they using me right now? Are they going to pit a lap later? And it just scares me if I'm out there without a real teammate.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic point. If you're one of those drivers that don't have a whole lot of people to work with you, don't have teammates, being that driver out in front is not a great position because, like you said, we know another round of pit stops are coming. You do not want to come off of turn 4 and see the entire field behind you duck off to the pits, and then you're out there by yourself. So if you're further back in the pack, you can see when those drivers make their pits, when they dive off, and you can dive off behind them. But when you're out in front, it's a guessing game, and you're probably going to guess wrong.
Yeah, it's just, it is so nice to have that clean air lead the way. You feel good about yourself, but man, so much can go wrong. You just get caught out. You get, oh man, that would be in the back of my mind. I don't know how you guys do it. Comfortable with being out front. I'm just always so conservative, but that's why I'm finishing 15th and you're bringing home the checkered flags.
It's tough. I mean, it really is. And I can tell you when it comes to this type of racing, I am definitely not one that can tell you how the strategy works or how to come out on top. I always seem to do the wrong thing, even when I'm running well. So it's tough out there, and a lot of these guys are really good at it. So you mentioned those guys that finished up front back at Daytona, Mark Fish, Copeland, Isaacs, Robinson, even Weiniger. Those are some drivers. They have experience. They know what to do and where to kind of place their cars to have that finish that they need. And those are the drivers you're going to want to pay attention to in about 20 more laps, see where they're running.
Yeah, that excitement from the Fish we got at the Daytona 500, or I guess we did 250, but man, he was so excited. He was the first person to admit, had no idea how he got there, just happy to be there. And man, if he could return at another Superspeedway, I believe, JR, I'm kind of a NASCAR guy, but I think you know a little bit more about it. The next time we come here, we're in the playoffs, I believe, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's it's something that you're always thinking about throughout the season. So yeah, Talladega is in the playoffs. It's in the 3rd round, and you want to learn everything you can. And you talked about it, the drivers. I think you said Mark Fish was like, I don't know how I ended up here. But those are races that when you do end up there, go back and study it. Find out what you did, learn from it, and try to apply it here. And the same thing goes for this race. Find what works and doesn't work tonight. When you come back in here, if you're a playoff driver, you've got to make something happen. So you have to use that knowledge. And tonight is kind of a practice for that. It's learning what works and what doesn't work. And even if you screw up tonight, that's fine. But don't come back here again and do it in the playoffs.
Yeah, and at the same token here, I've been Kotska, if you can't tell, JR, he's one of my favorites. Was rooting him on as a rookie. I love the guy. Great attitude. But right now, he's already in the playoffs. He's won 2 races, I believe, this season, so firmly in here, nothing to worry about. Talked about him maybe not having a lot of teammates. Are you willing to sacrifice a win here for a friend come playoff time, or a win's just too valuable? You got to find a way to keep that thing up front. What's the attitude here?
Yeah, it's a hard balance to do, for sure. As a driver, you've got to be selfish at times, so you've got to be about getting yourself wins, but there are times where you need to help out teammates, particularly, especially if they happen to be the driver that's in front of you at Talladega. So it's definitely a place where you need to be a little unselfish, and if that driver's ahead of you that's a teammate, you push them on for the betterment of the whole group, to not only get them a good finish or a win, but to also get yourself that good finish. So it's a balance, and it is not easy because, like I said, as a driver, you want to be selfish. You want to go get those wins each and every time out there.
Yeah, I think the perfect example was there in my intro when Dale Earnhardt, there, his final win, goes around Mike Skinner. Mike Skinner never won a real NASCAR race there, JR. I guess he won the All-Star race or whatever it was at Japan they had one year. That's his only win. But, man, it just proves you're willing to go around your son and the other car that you own to get a win. So it's every man for himself, I think.
It is hard. It is a hard balance, and if there's any track where you end up having big internal conflicts happen within yourself, it's places like this, because I talked about it. Drivers are selfish. You want to go win. If the opportunity's there and you don't try to win, then you're really not being true to yourself. So drivers are going to go out there and try to do it, but there are some situations where you want to push your teammate to get a win. And normally when those type of things happen, it's when you get what you're seeing on screen right now, where you have side-by-side racing, and it kind of limits what you can do, and whether or not you pulling out to make a pass could actually hurt you and your teammate and allow someone else to win.
JR, not that I'm thinking it's going to happen, so I don't want to make myself sound stupid here, but, it could be a possibility at this point in time, I think. You make your pit stop right now, you can go the rest of the way. Now, we'd want that 4, maybe 5-car pack, but at a track like Talladega, you're only getting a little bit of fuel, no tires. You're not worried about going a lap down. Do you maybe risk it here if you're running towards the back of the front pack? You got your tandem, you know who you want to work with. Let's try to lay the cards down on the table, or is it too risky?
I mean, it's a risk, but if you have 3 or 4 drivers that are working with you, willing to work with you, then definitely it's something that I would put high on my list as trying out to do, because if you can come in together, stay organized coming back out on the track, then you're more than likely not going to go a lap down. We see drivers ducking off. They're doing that very thing. We're in the pit window. Some drivers are coming down right now.
Oh, man, I can't take the racer out of me, JR. I just feel like strategically that could be the move, just because unlike, Daytona, you're not really going to go a lap down either, but it's a little closer than it is here. I just think, if you got your gang, this is the move. But that was a lot of guys coming down pit road at once, and I don't know if I like being at the back of that. We could see him string out again here as you see it. We can't tell who that yellow car is leaving at the back of pit road, but they're already out. Being this far behind the guys pulling off pit road, you already punched your ticket. And right now, Kotska, he's all by himself. He came out of pit road faster than everyone. So, congratulations, Andrew. But you've got to wait for everybody else. You're not going to do anything by yourself. So this is tough, and he's going to be patting himself on the back, but kicking himself, I think, at the same time for doing so good.
Yep, and that's the problem, Number one, you talked about how good he is, so he's not going to make many mistakes on pit road. Obviously didn't make any this time. He got a huge advantage, but you don't always know what those other drivers are doing, and this comes down to taking fuel for the end of the race. If you were a driver that had to take less fuel than everyone else, that's what you see, that 40 car way out in front of everyone else. So it's a gamble, and that's why having teammates or having somebody to work with and figure out what you're going to do during that pit cycle pays off. I like that group pitting off early to try something, but they did not come out organized whatsoever. But having said that, you can see they are passing that second group that came to pit road right now. So a couple of these guys really going to pay off. The 11 and 7 right there, Ogle, they're going to come out on top, Ogle and Hill here.
Yeah, at least Kotzka up the road, so he's going to need to, JR, kind of like what we talked about. I mean, it's only 2 cars behind, so I think you got to play a little nasty here. Exactly. Force him to go around the outside, break some momentum, and try to link up, because if Kotzka... Oh, man, he's in trouble, JR. He is in trouble.
Yeah, the problem he had there, what he did was great, but the 11 and the 7 were hooked up tandem style, pushing each other, and there's so much speed generated from that. Now, having said that, you will overheat like we talked about at the beginning of the broadcast, so Hill has had to back off from Ogle because of that, and that may allow Kotzka to get caught back up, but ultimately, those 3 guys, they are going to get eaten up, I think, by this larger pack that is forming behind them.
I'm a betting man, JR. I'll bet on what lap, Grandma's got to get up and go to the bathroom. I'll bet on what time dinner's done. It doesn't matter. But what is the 05 of Tom Embassy thinking right now, JR? You're not going to put cars a lap down. He's the only one to stay out, and I know he's behind that lap car now, but to be honest with you, he wasn't for a couple laps. He was running all by himself for about a lap and a half, and I just don't know what the plan is here, because let's say we get a caution, JR. Well, those guys behind you, they don't have to pit anyway. Tires mean nothing. I mean, you kind of got yourself out in a bad spot here for the 05.
Yeah, he absolutely does, and I'm trying to look and see what the difference may be. I know he was off cycle maybe slightly on some pit stops, but well, last time he came down was lap 50, so yeah, just trying to figure out what the goal may be here. If anything, he may be thinking, I need to get myself out of that large pack. Obviously, if he continues to do this, he's going to end up getting passed by all those drivers that just pitted, but he may just be hoping that there's going to be some big one that happens with those leaders, and he's avoiding it because he's nowhere near them.
I'll tell you what, man, this 21 machine, he's trying to play the big bad wolf right now. He is coming with a head of steam, trying to blow this, what will be battle for the lead, wide open here. This second pack is coming, JR, and I know first timer here, but I call a spade here. I'm glad Mark Fish, he won the 500, because other than that, it's been a rough year. And for Luke Lane in the 21, same can be said. This has been a difficult season for him. And for him to be in the top 5, this is the final green flag run. I mean, he's got to be licking his chops. This is his chance to go get in the playoffs, JR.
Absolutely. If you're one of these drivers that we see on screen right now, you know that you have done your job in this race because you have put yourself in a position to try to get a win. These are the drivers that are going to be fighting for it unless something crazy happens here. So, absolutely. And you talked about it. If you're a driver that doesn't normally have an opportunity to win, or even if you're just having one of those bad seasons where nothing goes right, this type of racing is an opportunity to go out there and get that win. So you're going to see a lot of aggression as these laps continue to tick down. Those drivers trying to get it, because ultimately your goal in the season is to get to the playoffs.
And I'll tell you, there can't be many more people. If you're a weekly watcher, you've got to be rooting for this 21 machine to get that thing up there to that top spot, because Luke is absolutely digging. 2 green flag pit stops here. He's nailed them. He showed that's not an issue. He just needs everything to go right. And right now it is. We've got, 11, 12 cars here in the front pack. I think this is setting up for what you want here if you're one of those 12 drivers, JR.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big thing is you just don't want to give anybody else an opportunity that's not with you to get back up there. And those drivers are about 3 or 4 seconds behind this pack, the next group of cars. These drivers are racing hard, so there's the opportunity for that pack to catch them. But overall, this front group, they're making good time.
Now, I believe, I didn't catch it, but I think the 05, Tom Embassy was, oh no, he is still out there. Okay, my SDK is being wacky. My apologies, Ryan. Still out front, I had Ogle winning. That's why I need to pay attention to my man's overlay. That beautiful new one scrolling across the top. Not mine, it's junk. But Embassy, man, he is still out front. I think if he doesn't, well, I just don't see a way to upsell this for Embassy. That's tough. I like to say, even with a caution, I don't think at this point there, if you're the 11 who we see on screen, JR, no way you come down pit road with the lead.
No, absolutely. Embassy, the last time he pitted was lap 50. He's losing time to these drivers that have already pitted, and Embassy's going to have to come down pit road, say around lap 90 to 95. Somewhere around there, he has to pit for fuel, and he's losing so much time out there that there's no way that he's going to be able to latch on to this group when he comes back out on track. His only thought right now is to have a caution and hopefully have that caution happen with that big group that would be the leaders, or the group that would inherit the lead from him, and have several drivers get taken out in it. I think that's the only play that the 05 has here. But if we go green, this group that is on screen, these are going to be the guys that are going to be racing it out for the win.
Yeah, and JR, it's down to 10. Kelvin Monsieur, the 43, and Daryl Weininger in the 15. They were in this front pack. They're not anymore. They're a little mix-up down to a 3-car group, and now all of a sudden they're going to get 8 up here, and that's maybe what they want to do. We'll have 2 groups pretty equal to size, but man, Tom Ogle, Daniel Hill, they are not messing around. They know we just got to stay in line. We'll play around here with 2 or 3 laps to go, but until then, let's behave. Let's work with what we got.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're the top 4 or 5 in this group, that's what you're doing. Your goal is to ride, make as much speed as you can right now to get the laps turned down and to get to the end of this race. The guys that are in the back of that pack, they're going to want to start racing a little before those closing laps. Probably with 5 or 6 to go, you're going to see different lines start to form up. But it's going to really come down to who makes that move when, who does it the quickest and the smartest in order to get that big run, because you find yourself out front with the other drivers racing, you could just end up benefiting from that. Normally it's not great to be the driver out there leading, but if other guys get to mixing it up, it can allow you to maintain that lead.
Well, dang you, JR. I was going to ask you with 20 to go, but we'll do it 5 laps early. That was what I was going to ask you. You're sitting there right now. You're in 9th place, okay? Or 10th place. Eric McCluskey. When's go time? Is it 10 to go when you're in the back of that pack? Is it 5 to go? Is it now? I mean, when do we need to start making the move? Because, you get the draft, it'll help you. But if you don't get some help, if you don't find that guy early and you wait too late, man, you're screwed.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And if you wait too long, the drivers ahead of you are going to start making some moves, and it kind of limits what you're going to be able to do. So definitely, I think the guys up front, they're probably not going to mix it up until about 2, maybe 3 laps to go. If you're further back, I say around about 6 to go, you're going to try to start to get something created and formed up, because sometimes it can take that long to get the momentum on the outside working. So I think you're going to have to go around lap 6 if you're back there in the back.
Yeah, and obviously, if you're Tom out front, you're comfortable. You're feeling yourself right now. But you mentioned making the move with like 6 to go. Let's say we get a big run here. We make the move with 6 to go. We find ourselves making a pass for the lead with, let's say, 2, 3 to go. Do we game it a little bit? Do we drag the throttle? Maybe no, that's a little bit too early. Try to time our run for later, or you got to take it when it's given to you?
Yeah, the bad thing with this type of car, especially with the new car, I really think you've got to take the runs all the way when you get them. I don't think you can really try to play too much strategy with it. If you go to make a move and you see you have a huge run, I think you've got to take it all the way. I don't think you can really go, hey, I'm going to back off and get behind this guy. It's just hard to get those runs formed up. And like I said, when we get down to the end and drivers start racing each other harder, side by side, a lot of side drafting occurring, it's going to be even harder to make something happen. So I think you got to take it when you can.
Yeah, interesting to see, too, that second pack starting with the 43 of Kelvin Monsieur. Hasn't been a whole lot. Oh, man, I didn't even realize Ryan had him over there. What a shock. I love you, Ryan. You're the best. They're slowly reeling them in. It is not a whole bunch, but, you know, as well as I do, JR, if we can get that down to about the 1.5 mark, you're not going to get full draft. But with some cars behind you, you're going to start breaking up that air a little more. And I think if we can get about 0.2 a lap, we might have one heck of a show here because those guys are coming.
Yeah, absolutely, they are. They're making ground up. I've been kind of watching them on the screen, and yeah, they're continuing to close that gap. So, yeah, so it's come down a little bit more. We're seeing some cars on pit road. That's the guy that was leading the race. So he's finally had to give it up around lap 90 here, having to make that pit stop. So it did not play out. Whatever the strategy was he was trying, it was not going to play out. But back to that group that's trying to catch the main group here. They will catch them eventually if they stay organized, and when they do, the speed difference between them and the leaders is going to be huge. So you could see a humongous run come, and they could go from the back of that pack all the way to the front of it.
Yeah, and you know, I've said 0.2, JR. It was 3.26 for me last time across the line. 3.06 this time, exactly 0.2. So they are making that ground, and man, if this front pack can't figure something out, oh, they are in for one heck of a surprise. And man, I'm gonna say it, JR. 10 laps. I think that's the pace. I don't think it's gonna take much more than that.
No, absolutely not. They're a little over 2 seconds back, and you can just see they're a little more organized, and it really comes down to those first 2 to 3 cars. That's where all that momentum is being made right now and how well they're staying organized. You can see up front, they're not quite as organized. There are gaps in those leaders up front, and not only with them, but the rest of the pack, they're breaking up from time to time. So that's going to slow them down. That in return helps that second group be able to catch them. And yeah, that's your worst nightmare if you were one of the drivers in that lead pack. You know that this race is probably going to go green. You needed to be out front. You got yourself in that position, but you didn't stay organized. And what you've done is allowed more drivers to come into the fold here at the end.
Yeah, we saw that front pack. It got a little smaller here. The Fish, Daytona 500 winner, he's losing touch. There, that is not what you want to see there if you wanted to get your second win of the season. I mean, 2-car pack, I don't see them being able to run them back down. But in the same token, you know, if you're Luke Lane in that 21, that is exactly what you want to see. You're at the back of a 7-car pack, and you got the keys to the castle, as Soup likes to say.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not a driver that likes being one of the last couple of drivers in line, because of what you saw happen with Mark Fish there. All it takes is little bobbles at the front of that line, and it accordions back, and it gets worse as it gets to the back of the pack, and you have to check up more than what those drivers up front did, and in return you lose a ton of momentum, and you start to lose the draft. That's why I hate that right now. Those 2 guys that lost that draft, they're going to get consumed quickly by this second pack that's been catching them. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough night, but if they stay on the bottom here, we're going to have to see where they go. If they stay on the bottom, they stand a good chance to keep that draft or catch that draft as this pack goes by.
Now, the 96, I totally understand that right there, but you kind of killed the top run, and I get it. You kind of get to hang on, but I think you would have hung on anyway, and your best bet, if you want to get back to those leaders, you got to use them like that ex-girlfriend, JR. I think they broke up the momentum a little bit, and it's going to, I mean, I still think they catch the leaders, but it is going to hurt the run that they had going, and that may end up hurting them in the long run, because either way, you know, you were going to lose these spots. You know, you were the 2 men out, but man, it cost them, I want to say, almost a quarter of a second. That was a good amount.
Yeah, definitely. I think they had this down to about a 1.5 second gap. Now it's going up to over 2 seconds again. So that really broke their momentum up right there. And absolutely, I think the 42 and the 96, they were going to be able to latch onto that draft anyway. But the way that the leaders even went around them and then pulled back down, it really left some of those guys out to dry in the high line. and in return has slowed this whole pack down. So this group, they got to get back organized if they want to chase down those leaders.
Yeah, they definitely are chasing them down, though, because, well, like I say, I can't blame them, but at the same time, you know, you want to keep it small. You want to, well, I mean, I said I was a gambling man, JR. If I could play roulette with only 7 numbers on the wheel, I would play a lot more. You know what I'm saying? If I had better chances of winning. But these guys, these back 4 out of the top 8 in this group, they're just so relaxed. They're creating those huge gaps. And, man, it's not really helping. I know we said, you know, you want 4, maybe 5 cars to work together, but if you're going to be in line, that's the downfall. You got to be close. You all got to work together. And I think right now, with the sand running out, just a little too patient.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic point with this style of racing. I've seen guys, 4 or 5 cars get lined up, and you think that's the group that's going to do something, and then they end up losing speed. And it all comes down to how organized you are, how close together you are, and whether or not the first 2 cars, especially how well they're working together, because it does take effort from that lead car to keep that second car attached on the straightaways. You want that second car to be able to make contact and push you from time to time. The third car being the car that's got to just be super close without making the contact, so there's no issues that arise from it. And if you don't do that, you may have the perfect formation, but you're not making the speed. And that's what comes down to the end of these races. You've got to be able to get together and make that speed.
Well, not too sure the mindset here, but we got a battle for the lead of the second pack. And that has opened up this gap now, JR. They are 2 seconds off that 7th place car of Luke Lane. I am just not really understanding this. I mean, they're 3 wide right now. And, man, I thought we'd be, hey, guys, let's catch up. Let's go race this thing. But right now, man, gloves off.
Yeah, the laps are counting down. We come down to 14 to go now, and drivers are starting to realize where they're running, and that's not where they want to be. So drivers are getting antsy, and even though they were making up good ground to that lead group and going to have opportunity to make up positions, they're now starting to freak out a little bit and go, hey, I'm going to take whatever I can get now, and in return, it's breaking up the momentum of this pack. So these guys, they've got to calm down a little bit, get organized, wait till you catch that lead group before you start racing.
Yeah, they are starting to reel them back in. You know, I was about to badmouth that strategy, but maybe we got the right 2 up front now, because, boy, that 12 Thomas was all over the back of the boss man, Victor Lane, going down that backstretch, and they are starting to reel them back in, JR. We're back to 1.5 seconds off that car in front. Look at Andy Thomas, man. This is he's doing God's work out here right now. Look at phenomenal.
Yeah, and this is what you got to do if you want to make out time. If you start doing that tandem style deal like we just saw with Andy going through the turn there, that is how you make up a ton of ground. But you can only do it for a couple of laps before you start to overheat. But that's a risk that needs to be taken at this point, because they were not closing up as fast as they wanted to. This is going to get them there quicker.
Yeah, that risk is going to pay off. This is absolutely unbelievable, man. This pace, they just kept the court in it for, what, JR, 100, or not 100 laps? What have we done? Oh, man, 95 laps so far. Then they decided to pop 98. Okay, there we go, Ryan. Way better with math. 98 laps, and all of a sudden, man, I had no idea those guys had that speed, but I think the guys up front, man, maybe they got put on notice. This front 4, look at Daniel Hill all over the back of Tom Ogle. He said, guys, they're coming, time to go.
Yeah, and if you're that lead group, if you're smart, and I'm sure that Ogle and Hill up front are, 'cause we've seen them in other leagues race, but I'm sure they were watching that, and they understood that, hey, we're now getting ourselves in a bad spot. We've got to get super organized here, and that's when they went back to work doing what they did at the beginning of this run, pushing each other and staying super organized. So that's going to make it tougher for that second group. I still think that second group's going to get there, but what this does is once they're there, they're not going to have the huge run that they could have potentially had where they would just go flying by that first group. So it's going to make the work a little bit tougher when they get there.
Yeah, interesting to note, too, only one driver in the top 5 right now who hasn't won this season. The 3, of Lucian. I mean, that guy, he wants nothing more than to sneak one here, and he's going to hope maybe the other guys aren't so greedy and going to pass it around, but I don't think he's going to get lucky. That other guy in 6th place right now, Fultz, and Luke Lane in 7th. 2 other guys that haven't won yet this season. So 3 out of the top 7. Going to really have to drop it here soon and maybe not play so nice with those other guys, JR, tend to go.
Yeah, it's pay window opening time, so definitely these drivers know that. They've understood what they need to do, or at least they put themselves in positions throughout this race to understand what they need to do when it came down to the closing laps. And right now they're trying to put that game plan into action, and more times than not for yourself, it's not going to work out for you. Now, if you've got teammates or drivers that you just generally work well around, they may work with you when you decide to go, but a lot of times you may decide to go and other drivers have a completely different plan because, again, it's a selfish type sport. You're going to go and get the best finish for yourself and you're going to try to win. So the easiest way to make passes in this type of racing is normally not to go with that driver that pulls out of line. It's to stay in line and get your own run going.
Don't stop talking yet, JR. Look who's got the draft. We've got a big group here. I told you, 10 to go. I was off 1 lap, 9 laps. But here we go, and now the boys up front. Oh, man, this is where your teeth are chattering. Look at this group coming with a big run. Going to duck to the inside here. Got one car trying to clamp the hose. Oh, he couldn't stop the pressure. He got in the middle here. We're 3 wide. Oh, it's going to get fun, JR.
Yeah, and that could have been a race-winning move from Sean Fultz, the 21 there, Luke Lane. When they saw that second group coming, they immediately moved down and closed off their momentum so that they would be the front cars. Unfortunately for them, a couple of guys got in front of them. One of them being that 3 there of Christian Lotion, so he knows what he needs to do to try to have this run. And right now, that 3 car, he was 3rd in line. Now he's going to be the leader of that inside pack.
Yeah, and I mentioned Lotion there has not won a race yet this season. He's the lead car on the inside. And man, he is getting all he can handle from Fultz, who Luke Lane, there not so much going down the backstretch. But up until then, he has been the perfect 3rd place car in line. Hanging right there on the back of Fultz, man. He is doing the deed, and I'm telling you, if the Code Red machine could steal this thing, after this rough season, it all comes back to doing this work. You need to make those guys on the inside have some success here. Maybe one of them go up top and block because, JR, you mentioned, right now, stuck on the inside. Not too much he can do, so you need some things to play out.
Absolutely. That inside line, that's the bad thing about being in it if you're not the leader, is that it doesn't give you options. You do not have anywhere that you can really go. The only thing you can do is push that driver in front of you. If you're in the middle or up top, you kind of got some room to move around and make some decisions. And, you know, the interesting thing there, you know, I talked about earlier, if you were the driver that was in the back of that first group, probably around 6 to go is when you're going to make your move. Well, guess what? That didn't play out because this second group caught them and passed them, and now we've got some crazy racing up front here. We're seeing a lot of passing, and it looks like Lotion's going to be the driver who gets hung out in the middle.
Yeah, tough break there for the 3. Oh, we got to stack up here, and oh, hang on, they do. Wild ride there through 1 and 2, but you see him there on your screen, that 83 of MacArthur. Remember, he went a lap down, but man, if he could get this thing up towards the front of that pack, and maybe a late race caution, JR, all of a sudden he's sitting pretty for a green-white checkered. So keep an eye on MacArthur. Got himself in a decent spot here if we get some late race action.
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes down to this type of racing with luck. I mean, you got to have a skill set for it, but it comes down to having some luck go your way, and it can turn a bad day into an extremely good day if you get things to happen that you need there.
Yeah, you know, before pit road, or before they made their last pit stop, JR, I had mentioned they were making pace on the bottom, but maybe we go upstairs and shut the top down, and I think that's what we're seeing. Right now, Fultz getting help from 3 of his boys. I believe they are teammates. Ogle Hill and the 59 of Fold. So it's going to be tough to break up those three. And, you know, JR, you mentioned, okay, I lied. They are not teammates as I get help from Ryan, but I know they're friends. They talk highly of each other in interviews. So, you know, teammates but not teammates. That's the angle I'm going. And second and third, I mentioned, you already got that win. Is there any shot here you help out your buddy in the 59?
I mean, I think there's always a shot. It kind of comes down more to the positioning on that last lap, especially when you come off a turn 4, going into the tri-oval. Do you have opportunities to make a move? Because I think if you have an opportunity, you're going to make it. Now, if you get 2 or 3 lines formed up and there's nowhere to really go, then you're absolutely going to help that driver that's in front of you because you're trying to get the best finish for yourself. So it all comes down to the positioning and how things work out. We're still a couple of laps away from that, so we'll see what happens here. But right now, those 2 drivers in the middle of the pack, they are pulling away.
Well, interesting here as we're getting ready to come to three to go. I want you to, you know, enlighten me a little, JR. Maybe we can get a better shot of the 12 car's nose a little bit, Andy Thomas. I think he's got a little bit of damage. That thing looks a little beat up on the front. It's caved in. Now, that was the man who led the charge with Victor Lane. You're telling me, JR, that even with that much nose damage, you can be a factor, you can help push here?
Oh, you can absolutely help push. Now, you're not going to be a factor with leading any of the lines. If you ever get out in front, people are going to be going around you because you're going to slow that line down so much. But you can be a factor when it comes to drafting up to the driver in front of you and continuing to push. That's where they always talk about the draft being the great equalizer. It really levels the playing field, and you can have damage and still be successful, but his chances for winning are going to be over. There's no way he's going to be able to lead a line and be quick at doing it.
We'll have to see, man. Storm is starting to brew. We've got defending champion Josh Robinson trying to push the 3 on the outside, trying to come from the back. But right now, looks like Mark Fish here. He's going to jump on board. Do we think 3 is enough, or are we going to need 1 more to get that high side rolling? Because we are running out of time.
Yeah, I'd really like to see 4 or 5 cars to kind of make it work. And the bad thing for them, we talked about that side draft. It may not have been intentional, but we saw the 24 there in the middle of the pack. It's just kind of a natural side draft because you're 3 wide there, so it really slowed the momentum of that top group down a little bit. It's going to be hard for them to get going, and right now they're not real organized as far as being close to each other to get that, but we're coming through the tri-oval to get that 1 to go. Got to make something happen here.
Yeah, white flag waving for the 59 of Sean Folds. What happens here? Next flag, whether we wreck or not, JR, it's going to be the checkered. Can the inside get rolling? The 43 of Kelvin Monsieur. He is coming like a bat out of you-know-where. He's got the 40 of Kotska behind him. Look at those top 3. Bang, 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 bouncing all around. But look at the run from the 43 with a smooth Andrew Kotska behind. Oh, JR, what's going to happen in the 4?
Yeah, they're pushing hard. You're going to see 3 wide up in front. This is where the action starts to get dicey because drivers are not holding back. They are pushing, and that is when the cars get upset. But right now, that 43 is in a perfect spot. The outside's coming quick, though.
Yeah, the trash man hauling it on the top side. Oh, Kotska takes a peek on the outside. Andrew Kotska steals it going through the tri-oval. JR, you said it. If the race ended in the tri-oval, it would be different. But the fact that it's 150 yards down the straightaway, Andrew Kotska steals it from Kelvin Monsieur. And Luke Lane in the 21, he actually steals P2. Oh my gosh, what a finish here. And 1 caution, JR.
Yeah, just a fantastic race, a testament to the skill level of these drivers that are out there, and that final run through the tri-oval, that was played out perfectly. I've seen it done in real life. Cannot tell you the patience that it takes to be able to pull that off correctly, but yeah, big win for Andrew Kotska there.
Man, absolute heartbreak for the 43 of Kelvin Monsieur there. That is, oh man, JR, we have all been in that seat, and oh man, you want to relish the podium. You know, it's first podium of the year here, but what is going through your head as you're doing that slow lap to park in that third podium spot?
Yeah, it hurts. Yeah, believe me. It's tough for sure because you felt like coming off turn 4, you had done everything correct. It was just a little bit of a misjudgment on where that 40 was going, and then once the 40 went, the 43 had nobody to help him at the end. So it's tough, but I fully believe that sometimes in order to win at this style of racing, you've got to make several mistakes. And I think that's something that the 43, he's going to go back and look on and figure out what to do different the next time we come back here.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and the 3-time winner this season, Andrew Kotska, is going to burn it down. But stick around. We'll be back with your interviews from your top 3 and your full rundown right after this. We're back live on the Virtual Grip Network, and oh my gosh, I still haven't really caught my breath from that finish as Andrew Kotska just absolutely stole it going out of the tri-oval. So I believe, I don't have good enough software here, but my recollection, that may have been the only lap he led. We'll have to ask him when we talk to him, but congratulations to Andrew Kotska bringing home the win. We got Luke Lane with his first podium of the year, as well as Kelvin Masseur going second and third. Good run for those guys. The trash man, Daniel Hill, coming home fourth. Christian Lucian coming home fifth, rounding out the top five. Sean Foltz, sixth. Defending champion Josh Robinson, seventh. The boss man, Victor Lane, eighth. Tom Ogle, ninth. Your Daytona 500 winner, Mark Fish, rounding out the top 10.
Coming home in 11th place tonight, Courtney Nelson in the 78 car. 12th place, Clay Walker. 13th place, Brian Lindsay. Daryl Weininger, he'll come home in 14th. Andy Thomas in 15th. Lee Worsdale, he'll come home in 16th. Eric McCluskey, 17th tonight. Bill Martin will come home in 18th. 19th place will go to Greg McDaniel, and rounding out the top 20 for tonight will be Bert Dotson.
The Viking, Dustin Martinson coming home in the blackjack position. Gavin Adams, 22nd. Crisco, Robert Gorisco coming home 23rd. Tommy Embassy coming home 24th. Chris Walsh, 25th. Dwayne MacArthur, your first car, a lap down, coming home 26th. Chris Bates, 27th. Greg the Hammer Hammond, 28th. Lloyd Moore, 29th. And the 9-ball, Alan Wanamaker, rounds out the top 30.
31st place will be Mark Schrader. Patrick Martindale will come home in 32nd. Scott Negus, he'll come home in 33rd place. Michael Dow, 34th. Roger Hurley coming home in 35th. 36th place is Larry Corey. 37th, John Hastings. Jerry Isaac, bad run for him tonight. He'll finish in 38th. 39th, Andrew Medlin. And Brian Lynch will come home in 40th.
Yeah, good to see Larry finish that race. I believe, JR, wasn't he the car that we kind of saw have the steering issue pulled to the inside? I mean, for him to get that fixed, only go 6 laps down, pretty cool deal.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, he was the driver.
Yeah, James Hislop going to come home 41st. Lonnie Corey 42nd. And rounding out the field, never made the call to the grid, Chris Sidnor coming home 43rd. Now, I believe it's that time for interviews, and we're going to go ahead. We're going to talk to our third place driver. All right, now, Kelvin, Shaggy in the booth, do you have a copy? But I want you to answer with how I pronounce that last name correctly, because I go Masseur. How do I do it? I'm back and forth all the time.
Well, whatever works, but the correct pronunciation is Mosier.
Mosier, see? That's right. You even wrote me that, didn't you? Now that it's going back to me. I'm terrible. Man.
We had a brief conversation, but it still works. What the hey?
No, dude. I need to respect it. Mosier 3 times. That'll get it down. Well, Kelvin, to be honest with you, man, your name was kind of hot in the chat box tonight. We didn't get that second caution. We were going to talk to you under that second caution, but, man, you made your way to the podium, but kind of a heartbreak for you coming to the checkered flag. I mean, what's going through your mind? Did you think you'd have the 40 glued to you? Did he surprise you? Or did you kind of know gloves were off?
No, I had no idea. I decided there at the very end to take the inside, and we decided to start pushing up there on the inside. And coming out of 4, I thought I had it, and then it started to see in the rearview mirror that they started to slip up on me, and I thought I could either go up high and see if it works out. But, of course, when that happens, things sometimes don't turn out for the best, so I just held it low and hoped that I had enough ponies to pull through, but didn't quite work out. But what do you do?
Yeah, no, especially, Kelvin, when, let's be honest, man, you're sitting in that second pack, 15, 20 to go. I mean, you guys were reeling them in, but then you started racing each other back there. Did we even think we'd get back up to the lead pack? Were you worried at all?
Started to fall back there, and then thankfully everybody got in line. I started to lead that second pack for a while. Got a little disappointed that I got pushed out to the outside, but just dipped back in, and I did a Cletus McFarland and tucked my wings in like an eagle behind everybody else, and thankfully we got back up there to that first group. And then from there on out, it was just all about hammer down, see what we could get for grip, baby.
No, I love that you said that, Kelvin, because truthfully, that's what me and JR were saying. You know, sometimes you just got to lick the wounds and fall back in line. Maybe it's not going according to plan, but rather than stay up there, try to race, full side draft. You know, you fall in line and you get back up to the front, man. Congratulations on the huge podium, brother. You got anybody you want to thank?
Nope, just happy to finish in the top 3. Big shout out to Andy Becker tonight. I know he's watching, so Andy, I hope to see you tune in next week as well to the old Virtual Grip Network.
Well, hey, congratulations, Kelvin. I got a feeling we're going to be talking to you again soon, man. Good luck the rest of the way, brother.
All right, over and out. See you guys.
Kelvin Mosier. Mosier. There we go. Rounding out the podium, they're bringing home a tough P3. I think you got the man coming home P2. Who you got, JR?
Absolutely. Standing here with Luke Blackjack Lane coming home in second place tonight. Congratulations, man. One of the biggest movers in the race, moving up. I believe you did 26 spots there, but a lot happening in this race. But I've got to ask you, what were your thoughts at the end there? Did you have a game plan, and did things work out the way you thought, ultimately coming home in second?
Yeah, I was thinking that it wasn't going to work out at the start because the outside had us beat with speed, but then I got a great push from my teammate Victor right behind me, and I followed Andrew, and it worked perfectly where I was able to squeeze past Kelvin and just stay right behind Andrew.
Awesome. It's great when something works out your way on a race like this. You came in tonight, you may not want to talk about it, but came in tonight 25th place in points. You had an awesome run here. You're going to pass a lot of people, I think, in points because of that. What are your thoughts moving into this season? Does this give you the momentum you need to get some stuff turned around and going in the right direction?
Well, I'm still a mid-pack racer, but I'm hoping that with consistency, I'll be able to at least get close to the playoffs or maybe even in the playoffs. I don't win very much or get podiums. This is my first, but it feels great to be here, and I'm hoping to just keep the momentum.
Awesome. That's a great attitude to have. Going to ask you to close it out before I let you go, man. Going next week into Texas, have you driven this car here? What are your thoughts? You think it's going to be a decent track for you?
I have driven it before. I'm not great at my tire management, which is why I love these plate tracks, but I guess we'll just see how the cards play and hopefully do some practice and save tires.
That's a good strategy going into there for this type of car. So, hey, best of luck next week, and man, congratulations on that big second place finish here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, Zach, that was Luke Lane, our second place finisher there. With that, I think you got tonight's big winner.
Yeah, long time no speak here, Andrew Kotska. Congratulations, man. I don't know what your profession is, but you don't happen to be a thief, do you? Because you stole that thing.
Yeah, thankfully, no. I'm not actually a thief in real life. I just like to steal wins away on the racetrack at Talladega sometimes. So, yeah. Yeah, that was an absolutely awesome race finish there. I mean, great clean racing by everybody. And, I mean, without Luke behind me there, giving me some pushes there to kind of get back towards the 43 when he came down, I probably wouldn't have got out there. But, yeah, absolutely amazing race tonight.
Yeah, that's what I was going to kind of ask you. So coming out of turn 4 on that last lap, maybe not as close as you wanted to be. Was that planned? Were we burping the throttle a little bit to try to get a run, or did you just kind of get some side draft sucked off you? Because honestly, man, it looked like Kelvin was going to bring this thing home, but you mentioned that big shot. I mean, if not for Luke, you're probably coming home second.
Yeah, I mean, that last lap, once Kelvin jumped down in front of me, I just hooked up to his rear bumper and just pushed him all the way around there. And just coming out of turn 4, I started blinking red like the engine was about to explode. So I had to lift off for a second there, and I think that's what helped me get that secondary run to kind of side draft him there to the start-finish line.
Oh, man, we were going that hard at the end that she was blinking red. I mean, that means you were probably right on the rear end of that dude 2 or 3 laps. I mean, is that true? I mean, that's kind of unbelievable. I mean, you guys did get a huge run on the inside, but man, that's tough pushing it that close.
Yeah, it was a hot track out there, so about a lap and a half, and the thing would want to blow up out there. So, yeah, I basically hooked up the corners, straightaways the whole way around there, just trying to get as much of a run to try to push the 43 out in front of everyone else out there.
Now, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you weren't even in the Daytona 500, were you?
I didn't even show up for the Daytona 500. I decided to sit and watch the real one on my couch instead of racing.
Well, I mean, with win number 3 showing you know how to restrictor plate race, you maybe regret it. I mean, you left one out there for Mark Fish, but boy, for that timely run, man, you showed they got to watch out for you on long-distance tire runs, and now they got to watch out for you on restrictor plates. I mean, do we have a weakness? Oh, yeah, and let's talk about you had to start in the back at Coda, and you drove that thing the whole way up to second. I mean, you can't tell me you have a weakness. Don't lie to me.
I don't know. You might find one of my weaknesses as the season goes on. I'm sure there's going to be a track coming up soon that'll not jive with me too well here.
Well, you know, speaking of tracks coming up soon, we're rolling into Texas, as my partner JR mentioned. I mean, are we feeling excited? Do we like Texas? I mean, what's the atmosphere like going in there?
Yeah, I like Texas. I like to drive Texas. I don't like to watch races at Texas, but that turn 1 and 2 is very unique, and you got to hit that corner right to kind of get out of there. So I feel like it's going to be a fun race next week as well out at Texas.
And, I won't make you give it all out here, but I know, I should start calling you the tire whisperer here. Is there any chance we try to really extend it, or do we think tire is going to be a big issue at Texas?
You know, I'm not too sure. I haven't really looked at it yet. I'm assuming it's probably going to be one of those simple breakdowns of pit stops there. I don't think there's going to be anything fancy that can kind of come out of Texas, because that turn 3 and 4 is kind of wild, trying to wear out those tires there too.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, you pulled a fancy win out here at Talladega tonight. Congratulations on absolutely stealing it. And, well, before I let you do your thank yous here, you can do them after. I want you to answer one question for me. Was that the only lap you led tonight? Because I'm pretty sure it was.
No, there was a section earlier in the race where I led a chunk of laps. I think, I don't remember exactly when. I know Sean and I were kind of going back and forth, swapping the lead there when we had 2 lanes going for the lead. So I think, I led 11 laps tonight, yeah.
Well, hey, at least you didn't hog all of them, man. And, you saved the most important one for yourself. Congratulations, Andrew, on the big win, brother. You've done this plenty of times, but who you want to thank?
Yeah, first of all, thank you guys here in the booth with your amazing broadcasts. I rewatched that call that you guys did tonight. Absolutely wonderful. The whole OBRL league here and the admin team for putting on these awesome races and bringing such a great community together of people to race here. Shout out to friends and family out there watching as well. I've been up actually since yesterday at 6 in the morning. I had a dog that was having ear issues, so I was up all night with him last night. So I think I've slept like 30 minutes during the real race this afternoon, so I don't even know how I pulled off this win. I'm just going to pass right out after this.
Well, hey, man, first off, my wife and I don't have kids either yet. Want to eventually, but my dog is my son. He goes with me everywhere, so I can only imagine what you're going through. My thoughts are with your dog there. Hopefully everything gets good. I can only imagine. But, man, congratulations on this win, Andrew. I know we're going to be talking to you again soon. Good luck at Texas.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great evening.
Man. Oh, my gosh. No sleep. How do you... I mean, come on, JR. Restrictor plate racing on no sleep. Now, I know, we like to endurance race. We do the 24 hours, but we're sleeping a little bit. I mean, come on. That's unbelievable. What a run.
Yeah, that's a crazy run. It shows the talent level to be able to pull something like that off, because what we watched tonight is not easy at all. It was a mentally exhausting race, and to do it without any sleep, that takes a lot. So, it just shows the skill and talent level that this entire field has been able to put on display. Only one caution tonight. That in itself is hard to do.
Well, we touched on it a little bit, but let's go ahead. Let's look at what we're looking at next week. Time to get the cowboy boots and the hats out. JR, I know you're not going to be here, but I know you're going to be watching, man. Texas Motor Speedway, one of the most action-packed racetracks NASCAR has to offer.
It absolutely is. It's a mile and a half. which is typically seen as a cookie cutter style racetrack, but Texas is not. Turns 1 and 2 completely different than how 3 and 4 will race, and you will see a lot of action, a lot of drivers be able to set up and make passes, so it will be an exciting race there to watch.
But coming up next, and well, when you tune in, you'll get to hear JR's lovely voice and maybe mine, if I'm running near the top 10. We'll see what happens. But we're rolling into USA tomorrow night, and JR, I'm telling you, I'm not allowed in that booth with you guys. I'm locked out of it. I've tried to come in there to sneak information from you, so I need it now. What do I have to do at USA to save tires and work through the field? I mean, that place is going to be tight with the amount of cars we've been having.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of drivers, I think, are going to be a little bit surprised in that race because rear tires will be a topic that we will be discussing throughout the broadcast. But absolutely, you're going to have to baby the throttle. You're going to have to work it very easy coming off of the corners. Otherwise, 20 laps into that run, you're not going to have any grip, and it's going to bite you on corner entry. So I believe you're going to have some front brake bias dialed in, which is different than what I like to have, but you're also going to have to be super easy on that throttle to take care of those rear tires.
Oh, man, wish me luck. All that's going to go down tomorrow night at 9:25, but that's going to do it here for the OBRL YesterYear Racing Cup Series. On behalf of everyone at the Virtual Grip Network, I'd like to thank my partner, JR Shepard, the dude in the back, Ryan Seneker, and last but not least, all of you. Have a good night.